Hello, welcome to the studio. I'm Anna Walker of StabThingsIntoExistence.com, and we are going to create a holiday garland today. Now, your kit contains everything that you need, from the cookie cutters to the felting tools to the fiber, lots of pretty fiber and undyed fiber as well. So come along with me on this journey and let's create a cookie cutter garland. Here's what we have in your kit. We have your cookie cutter set. We have your foam block with 2 felting needles in it. One of them is green tipped. That's our starter needle. That's a size 38 needle. One of them is red tipped. That is our finishing needle. You have some undyed wool. You have 8 colors of dyed wool, and you have some fiber bats, and one of them is in pinks and oranges, or purples and pinks and reds, and this is the one that we're going to use to create our Valentine garland. So I'm going to set that back there. We're going to start with our undyed yarn, and we're just going to take and open up our cookie cutter set, and we are going to remove all 3 of the heart cookie cutters because we are focusing on the Valentine's Day garland today. You've got cookie cutters that you can create any number of different types of garlands, and we'll go through some of those ideas with you. I'll go through those with you at the end of our class today when we've got our Valentine's garland done, but this is going to get you started. So we've got 3 different sizes of the heart shapes, and we're going to do all 3 of these sizes. And we're doing that because I'm going to make just a simple garland with 5 heart shapes, and I already have a medium and a large heart shape, and we'll have the small one in the middle, and then we'll do the medium and the large on the outside, and that will be our small garland that we're going to start with. So let's get that going. I'm going to start with the largest one first, and I am just going to take, and the sharp side I always have facing down toward the foam. This is your felting form. It gives you a base on which to felt so that you don't have to worry about your needle getting broke or bent by hitting the table, or even worse, your lap underneath. And to start out, we need to have enough wool to pack into this cookie cutter to get us started. I am taking and I am just pulling off bits from the end of my undyed roving. Now, my favorite way to pull is to have one hand holding the fiber roving about 6-7 inches away from the loose end, and then taking my hand and using the palm of my hand and my fingers to pull off what I call a little single of the fiber. I'm going to move this off camera for a second so you can see this a little better. And I have found that about 4 of these is what I need to fill the big one. And then 3 of them are what I need to fill the medium. And then again, that's our medium. And then 2 of them are what I need to fill the small. Now, if you notice when you're holding your roving and you're having trouble pulling that roving loose in a single, move your hand a little further apart and it'll pull really, really well. So I have our other 2 piles ready to go. Got a pile of 3 and a pile of 2 for the medium and the small, but for now we're going to use the large. Now, this is all the fiber that we're going to need to tuck and squish inside this cookie cutter. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of sort of feeling your way around to make sure that we've got about the same amount of fiber all the way around the cookie cutter. And I can just feel that by pressing down into it. Now, it's going to be fluffy to start out with, and that's okay. That's where it's supposed to be. But we are going to get that fluff under control pretty rapidly. So we're going to take your felting needle. Now, I went over the 3 rules of needle felting at the beginning of the video. Follow those 3 rules, like always know where your non-stabbing hand is. So I'm going to start stabbing right along the edge of the cookie cutter, and I'm just doing a gentle pouncing motion, and I'm staying pretty much away from my fingers by doing this. Sometimes I find it helpful to bring my finger down here toward the edge so that I can sort of feel the edge of that cookie cutter when I get close to that. Here's the thing about using cookie cutters. If you hit that cookie cutter, especially if you're using a metal one like we are, you hit that cookie cutter and you can sometimes bend or break off the tip of your needle, and then you'd need a new needle, okay? So go slow, go methodical, and go all the way around. Now, instead of moving the cookie cutter, I am twisting my foam block around so that I can get my hand over here to this other side of the cookie cutter. Again, I'm watching out for my non-stabbing hand, and I want to make sure that I don't get anywhere close to my fingers so that I can ensure that I'm not stabbing me and I'm only stabbing the fiber. And just by going slow and deliberately, just nice pouncing, doesn't take a great deal of effort at all. The needle does all the work for you. It's got those barbs on it, and those barbs are what connect all of the different pieces of fiber together. So right now on this first pass, I'm going to make sure that I get all the way along the edge of the cookie cutter, and I want to make sure that I pass over all of the fibers in the center of the cookie cutter because I want them to be evenly felted. And here in just a second, I'm going to have an opportunity to lift this up to evaluate as I flip it over, and we work on the next side of our cookie cutter felting here for our garland. All right, so I've got the cookie cutter filled with fiber. I'm pressing down, and I can feel that just right along the edges of the cookie cutter, I need just a tiny bit more fiber. So I'm just going to pull off one single here, and I'm going to take and sort of split it apart so that I've got more fiber coming in all the way around the edge of the cookie cutter here. And I'm just bringing these fibers in, and I am just going right around the edge of the cookie cutter itself to fill in the gap that I didn't have quite enough fiber for when we started. And you'll get the feel for this. You'll start to notice, okay, I need to squish the fiber a little bit more this way, or I need to bring the fiber in a little bit more this way to get those fibers to come in and work evenly all the way around the cookie cutter. But for right now, we're just adding some extra fiber right here along the edge of our cookie cutter to give us a little bit extra bulk where we found that we didn't have quite as much fiber. It's all about having things felting evenly and about having an even amount of fiber all the way around. So again, I am coming around and I am going to bring this fiber in all the way around this edge of the cookie cutter as well, focusing those extra fibers just right along the edges of the cookie cutter because I don't really need to build up any more bulk in the center. Just need to build up a little bit extra right around the edges. And so that's where we work. And I don't know if you heard that, but that was me getting a little too close to that cookie cutter wall. And I can draft these fibers down just a little bit to make sure that I'm getting the tip of my heart nice and full, just like the other areas. One more pass all the way around the edge of the cookie cutter. And then making sure that I am going over the center of it to incorporate those fibers together. Now, this is just really loosely first time pass of our heart here. We're going to just pull side to side gently, lift it up with our fingers, and flip it over, put it right back in the cookie cutter, only this time upside down. So now we're working the opposite side of the felted shape. And it's just a matter of going around the edges first and then working a grid type pattern to go all the way across the surface of our felted heart here. And I just work one area at a time, so I work the two little curves first, making sure I'm getting all the way around the edge, and then I start working back and forth to fill in the entire curved portion. And we're going to work this back and forth on one side and then the other side a couple of different times before we're ready to do some edging work, and then we'll add our color. And see, there, I just broke a needle. That's how quickly it can happen. So let's come back here. Even when you've been felting for over a decade like I have, you can still break needles because you get too close to the edge of something. That's why I try and go slow when I'm going around the edge of a cookie cutter, and then I can go a little faster in the center. But this is not a race. You do not have to go very fast at all as you are going around the cookie cutter. And you don't have to pounce really forcefully. You can just literally bounce that needle into the fiber and let it come right back up. And that is enough to get the work done for you. Okay, so we've done one pass on both sides. I'm going to lift it up again, and you can see we've already got a good start to our heart, but we want to come in and we want to work both sides one more time before we start working on those edges. So again, working all the way around the edge of the cookie cutter, and you see this time I'm doing just a little bit of a different technique. I'm sort of radiating from the edge toward the center portion. And that's because I want to have the needle pass through the fibers in as many different directions as possible, because that will make for a stronger felt. If I just always go around and around and around following the shape of the cookie cutter, I'm going to miss some opportunities to interconnect the fibers in a slightly different way that will make for a stronger felt. So I always think about coming into the fibers from a different direction, from a different angle, so that I can build a nicely felted piece and well felted all the way around. And you see that it doesn't really take any extra time, any extra technique, except then here we are in the very center that didn't really get touched. And I've got a little bit more right around this edge that I want to tuck to with the needle. And then we are ready to lift our cookie cutter off and flip it over and put it inside the cookie cutter again. You can see we're already looking at a really nice felt here. So now I'm going to come in at yet another angle and just kind of work my fibers all the way around, once again, making for as strong of a felt as I possibly can by coming at it from different angles. And the next part is an even different angle, and you'll see that in just a moment. Now, we've just done 2 passes on each side of our heart shape. That's all it's taken, is just these couple of minutes to do those 2 passes. And I'm coming in at yet another angle and just working the fibers nice and regularly all the way across. If it helps, imagine a grid pattern that shifts on its axis every time you come at your felting. But you'll get used to it. And so now we've got a nice medium felt going on here. It's holding its shape. The edges are a little soft, and that's the next angle that we're going to come in at. We're done with the cookie cutter for now, okay? So at this point, we are coming in and we are working these edges right along the edge, because we've done a lot of stabbing from here and we've done a lot of stabbing from here, but we haven't done any stabbing from here. So now is when we take and we work this edge all the way around. Now, if you have issues with your fingers getting too close and you feel a little nervous, you can wear thimbles on the hands that are holding your felt. While you're stabbing, you could use a piece of cardboard to hold the felt. You could use even a pot holder to help you hold the felt, and that would provide you with a little bit of protection. But by and large, as long as you are very aware of where your fingers are on your non-stabbing hand and you do your best not to stab toward them, you're going to be doing just fine. Again, go slow. This is not a race. I don't expect you to get your first cookie cutter shape done as quickly as I've done here. Take your time. This is your practice, your meditation, your therapy. You take it as quickly or as slow as you feel comfortable with. And so we've gone all the way around our heart. I'm going to give just a little bit of attention right here along the edge, just sort of working that edge so that it's a little softer and not quite so solid. And you see I'm just sort of working an arch right over the edge of my heart here. And just take your time. Work all the way around at your comfort level. And then I can flip it over and I can work it from this side too, all the way around. And you'll get the idea. And you'll get into a flow as you're putting these together. And we've gone all the way around on both sides. We've got a nice medium felting here. What I like to do at this point is just rub the shape between my hands, and I just flip it over and rub it both sides a couple of times. This is just providing a little bit of heat and a little bit of friction to sort of hold any loose fibers a little bit closer to the surface. But now what you need to do is make up as many of your hearts as you want for your garland, and I will come back when I get my hearts done. Okay, so now we're going to work on adding our color or skin to our hearts. And for that, I'm going to use this really fun and funky fiber bat. Now, you can still use this and pull it off the ends the same way we did the roving, but you can also split it up lengthwise, and that will help you get a little bit of a blend of the colors that you've got in this, and then you can just sort of finger blend it to get more or less color blending than what you had before. And I like doing this just to get a little bit extra fun little design aspects going here. So I'm not going to take the whole thing. I'm just going to take a little bit at a time, because this is the skin that's going to go over our individual hearts. And to add this, when you're adding color, whether it is to a large project or a small project, it is always best to add color a little bit at a time. It's much easier to create an even bit of color when you add just a tiny bit at a time. Now we're using the red tipped needle, and the reason we're using this is because this is the finishing work. We're also using very, very shallow stabs because the hearts are already felted. We just need to attach the skin or the color to the felt piece. You'll notice that I do not have my foam underneath. I am just setting this down where I'm working because I am working so shallowly, I'm not even going all the way through the felt heart. Now, if you want, when you're adding color, you can certainly add it in swirls or stripes, or you can even, do a little bit of a checkerboard design, as it were, by weaving pieces in and out. But we are just working this fiber very, very shallowly into the felted heart, and we are going to go all the way around our felted heart here. See if I can get you more a little toward the center here. And we will add fiber as we come to areas where we need to add the fiber. And I can wrap this around and get a view of what it's going to look like by just basting this side in. And I'm just doing a little bit right here to hold it in place. Then I can see, okay, I've got a nice little bit of color here. This is the area that I'm going to have to worry about adding some additional fibers. But for right now, we are looking good. And it's just about adding these fibers slowly but surely to our felted heart. You can mix them and twirl them however you wish. I find that it works really, really well to baste the fibers into place if I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to need to add additional fibers, because then it makes it easy for me to go ahead and add those fibers only where I need them. Okay, so we have our 5 hearts done here. I've decided to lay them out with my mediums, then my larges, and my one tiny small in the center. I've taken about a yard of the cording, the baker's twine that you have in your kit, and I just fold over the edge and then just wiggle back and forth to get that through the eye of my tapestry needle. Now, a tapestry needle is pretty common and pretty easy to find. If you have any trouble, let me know. But it's not super sharp, and it's got a very large eye, so it works perfect for baker's twine. So I'm going to start from one end and go through each of my hearts until I get to the other end, and then I'll position them all. So I want to make sure that the needle goes through this upper portion of the curved area of the hearts. Now, you can see the needle is a bit shorter, and in the large one, it's a fair bit shorter than the length from side to side, but this is felt, and we can push that needle through so that we can grab hold of it. And if you have any troubles with grabbing like I do, with my arthritis, you can take any pair of pliers and you can just wiggle that through and then spread it all the way down to the end. And there we have our first heart. And now we're going to do the second one the same way. I'm just coming through right in the center of the side, just a little bit down from where the curves and the point are, and I'm just feeling the position of the needle and then holding it squished. And like I said, because I have arthritis in my hands, I am using a pair of pliers to help me pull it through. And then slide it on down. We'll worry about positioning when we get all of these on. And once again, coming through right here in the center of the side. This one you can see goes straight through, and even still might need a push, but you can see that we can pull it out fairly easily. Again, I have arthritis in my hands. And then slide it through, and then we'll do the next one. And feel our way there. And pull that on through. And then let's get our last heart on. And there it is. If you notice that it's not coming out the right area, back the needle up, and then you can reposition it a little bit before you pull it all the way through. Okay, we're done with our needle, so we can take that right off. And now we can position our hearts on our garland with any space in between them that we want. I have a tendency to want to take the ends and figure out, okay, there's where my end pieces are, and they're pretty even. And then I'll hold it from here, and I'll figure out where the center is that needs to be dropped down to being right there in the middle. And then I'll position my other two hearts so that they're about the halfway through. And there we have our heart garland. And because we attached it through the upper portion of the hearts, those hearts are going to hang nice and straight. But we have our Valentine garland ready to go. I'm going to show you next how to take your heart shape and turn it into a shamrock, okay? Okay, so here's a shamrock that you can use for St. Patrick's Day, and you can see it is just 4 of the small hearts connected together. And I wanted to show you how I get those connections built up in between. So at first, I'm just going to do 2 at a time when I'm coming together with them. And I'll come through one and go into the side of another. And I'll just stab back and forth for a bit. And I'll just keep circling around and doing the same thing until I have all 4 of the hearts loosely connected. Okay? So we're just going through one and into another, and we're just stabbing right here in the middle. Same place where we would run our cording for our garland. But I'm just coming in and I am doing a connection between each of these 4 individual hearts. And once I start holding together, I'll flip it over and I'll do the same thing. You can do it shallowly from here. Again, remember, the trick to felting is building up as many connections as you can. And that's what I'm doing when I'm connecting the hearts. I'm just building as many connections as I can from one heart to the next one beside it. And then when I'm done with those connections, I can then go over each of those connecting points from top and bottom, and that will give me an even stronger connection until I have the shamrock. Now, for hanging the shamrock, I would either run my tapestry needle through 2 top points, so come in right here and come out right there. That, I think, would be the best way to hang the shamrock, because I am connecting 2 of the hearts that I put together at the same time. If you wanted it to be more flat like this, then I would go from this heart into that heart, and then I'm connecting 3 of the hearts and making for a strong connection for hanging that shamrock and that shamrock hanging. So I would either come here or I would come here. Just depends on how you want to put your shamrock on your garland. Give me a moment and I'll come back with a couple of other ideas using cookie cutters you may already have. So let's talk about what you could do with the round cookie cutters. I made a cute little emoji face using the large cookie cutter. You could make a series of those in different sizes and do a fun little emoji garland, or how about you spell something out? You could use the rounds to spell out happy birthday, happy anniversary, write somebody's name. This is done as easily as just doing your color and then taking a little yarn and just laying it down a little bit at a time and then stabbing right into that yarn to create your letters. What else could you do with the rounds? Well, if you had 3 of them together, you could connect them and you'd have a wonderful little snowman. Or put them the opposite direction and you could have a pretty little ornament kind of idea for the holidays. And this could be for any holiday. You can make them look like icicles, could make them look in any wonderful bit of color just to add some sparkle to a birthday party or to a holiday celebration.